sell them like that.
Soak up the rags, spark up the max, light up the night and I never look back. I am the hunter, you are the monster. I am the entity, I am the haunter. Fight with no water, fight with no water. Bring me the leg, I won't choke on the water. I am the author, you are the paper. Rip you apart, leave the blood on the razor. Motherfucker, I am the product, you never feeling my feelings. I run upon them in the middle of the night and I kill them. I drill a hole in the villain to fill the void. Every second time I shit, I don't listen. I'm burning up with the witches. Always been the same and I'll never change. Drifting the waves and I'm swept away. Catch me with the flames, I'm a decimate. And if I rest today, I'll just accept my fate. That's how I feel, am I really here? Dwelling every fear, there's no here, let me hear me out. Show me who I was, patiently, faithfully chasing the sun. Drag me down, deep into the ground. Seep into the weakness, gotta get the secret out. I am alone, inside my head. I can be killed if I'm already dead. Double identity, look at me, see what you did to me. Look at you, this is what you thought I was done, but bitch, this is the interlude. I will be cautious, watch where you step. I am your conscience, I am your breath. I am the sovereign, never to rest. I will break down your will until nothing is left. Soak up the rags, spark up the max, light up the night and I never look back. I am the hunter, you are the monster. I am the entity, I am the haunter. Fight with no water, fight with no water. Bring me the leg, I won't choke on the water. I am the author, you are the paper. Rip you apart, leave the blood on the razor. Motherfucker, I am the product, you never feeling my feelings. I run upon them in the middle of the night and I kill them. I drill a hole in the villain to fill the void. Every second tell me shit, I don't listen. I'm burning up with the witches. Always been the same and I'll never change. Drifting the waves and I'm swept away. Catch me in the flames, I'm a decimate. And if I rest today, I'll just accept my fate. I don't wanna live forever, I just wanna die a king. I don't wanna live forever, I just wanna die a king. I don't wanna live forever, I just wanna die a king. I don't wanna live forever, I just wanna die a king.
Really well with it.
Well, hello there.
Hello?
What barrel length is best?
Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is
Lots of interesting viewpoints on this topic. You're going to get different responses from different people, and there's no shortage of opinions based on a lot of factors, which we're going to cover. Some say it's a 10.5 with a dot.
We represent the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Guild.
Or is it the tried and true 16-inch?
Check one more time, which one?
Honey, you said 1.
20 seconds.
Okay, so you want me to waste this guy in broad fucking daylight?
Confirmed.
10.
What about the super awesome Master Race 12.5? Or the venerable 11.5? Or perhaps it's the 14.5. Or the 20-inch, which we all know is like a railgun from The Expanse. How do we decide? Will our choices piss off our favorite influencer who is 12 states away and we'll never meet in person?
Fuck.
Will we not look cool to our peers? These are all important questions. So of course, me being a narcissistic YouTuber, I put together some criteria that I use personally, and I think with all the cool hard work and thought that I put into it that you definitely didn't ask me for, I would try to tackle this topic. First and foremost, what type of guy are you? There's 3 types that I could come up with. First, you're the mission dictates gear kind of dude or gal, which usually means multiple setups for multiple missions or types of work that you're looking to do. So you have an SPR, you've got a couple different rifles to do a couple different things and do them well. There's also the second type of guy or gal. How do you do the most with the least? These are the people that gravitate towards do-it-all setups and using things that get a lot of stuff done, but they're a jack of all trades and master of none. And then the third one is the poors. Now I want to highlight that it's a mentality. So you have the poor mentality or the just as good mentality. This is going to set you up for failure on every single front that you look to apply it. And I'm going to tell you that I have much more respect and personally have been destitute and had low income. I was an E3 and E4 once, just poor as fuck. The first gun I bought was an HK. The second gun I bought was an HK. I saved my money and I made sure I got quality things because I wanted to buy once, cry once, and I wanted my money that was very important to me to give me something that was going to last, because I don't like wasting money. But there's people who make poor decisions that are either financially well off or they're not financially well off. I'm not attacking you for your financial situation, I'm attacking you for your mindset. So there's some people that'll take offense to that, even though I said all this. But if you're making poor decisions or you say just as good more often than not, you can fix yourself or not, I don't really give a shit. But it's definitely not a winning strategy. And there are items out there that are quality that aren't top tier, that are respectable, that you can purchase, and it's going to take care of you. So why not choose that route? Now, one thing that's very important that a lot of people skip over, and everyone's heard the first part, but not necessarily the second part. Everyone should know that 2,500 feet per second is the bare minimum muzzle velocity that you need to achieve to be effective, which Crane and a whole bunch of other people tested, and 10.3 is the bare minimum bottom of the barrel length, no pun intended, for that level of performance. Now, what they don't tell you is carrying that velocity out to distance to be effective on target. Now, my buddy who gave me this actually, that will tell you while he was in Afghanistan, he saw a lot of dudes get put down by high-speed guys with 10.3s, with Mark 18s. And that's not wrong. A Mark 18 can be very effective, a 10.5 can be very effective. But you have to know your drops, you have to know what you're doing, you have to know your ranges, and you gotta be good with it. You also have to feed it quality ammunition. But someone might pick up a 10.3 or a 10.5 and say, well, this is gonna meet the criteria, so it's just as good, or it's gonna get me there. But they ignore the fact that a 14.5, which is only a little bit longer, or even a 12.5 is gonna get much better velocity and performance. And then that carries through to a 16, 18, or 20 inch. As well as the type of round that you're choosing to fire. There's a lot of quality rounds out there, and there's a lot of dog shit out there. And people will throw dog shit in their gun, they'll get some Tula ammo and be like, I'm set. And you'll see a lot of dudes with a 10.3 or a PSA 10.5 because they have a B or C grade FN barrel in there that isn't like a regular FN barrel, it's their seconds. And they're talking about, well, I'm gonna just run Tula 55 grain out of my PSA 10.5 with the FN barrel and I'm gonna be fine. And then there's someone who's gonna come by with this LMT 10.5 running 75 grain tap or 75 grain tap SBR, Mark 318 Mod O, or 77 grain, and they're gonna dunk on that dude that's running the shitty ammo. There's a lot of things to consider, and the type of round becomes important with your atmospherics, elevation changes, or if you're looking at penetrating barriers before it gets to the target. You also have to think about all these people that are talking about how everyone's got body armor and everyone's got night vision. Well, are you are you bringing the tool to perform to vibe check those things? Or, you know, they'll say these qualifiers like everyone's got night vision, everyone's got body armor, and then they run a 10-3 with 55 grain in it. If you want to be serious and you want to consider peer-to-peer threats or vibe checking armor, then you need to make those adjustments. All right, so my next criteria is who are you and what are you doing? Born out of my narcissism are these 4 categories. You have the guys that are always talking about home defense and they're not concerned about anything else. They go plinking at the range, firearms are a hobby, and they have something just in case somebody breaks in their house. Nothing wrong with that. That's definitely a type of person you run into frequently. Next, you have your concerned citizen. These are people who are more concerned about a larger picture. So they're looking at the neighborhood, their town or their city or something like that. They don't want to go into shit, so they'll see roving gangs with AK pistols or certain things, and that's what they're trying to prepare for. External threats that are outside of their home and protecting their community. Next, you have the Minuteman. This is going to be responding to external threats, like a Red Dawn scenario. And before you say the Minuteman thing is gay, everyone's online right now trying to do dress out videos in 60 seconds on YouTube and Instagram. I mean, definitely train to that standard. You want to be able to get in your gear quick and respond to threats, but some people are quick to talk shit about something, but then they go then they go and do the video. Lack of self-awareness. And then lastly, you have your military and law enforcement. Military is going to be better at combat scenarios, and law enforcement is going to be knowing their area a lot better because they're responding to things constantly. However, a caveat to this, just because you're in the military or just because you're in law enforcement doesn't make you a good shot, doesn't make you good at tactics, and doesn't necessarily make you good at selecting proper gear. The bro vets and the time card punchers are probably going to make their way in the comments, but I don't count bro vets and time card punchers as factors in this scenario, because more often than not, they're the ones making poor decisions or saying just as good. All right, next thing you got to consider is area of operations as this thunderstorm rolls in. You have city versus the burbs versus a town or a parish versus a wilderness. And then you also have desert versus plains versus mountains versus forest. And then you also have elevation concerns and other atmospheric conditions like what's the weather like? Are you in Seattle or are you in New York City? Are you in Maine? Or are you in California? Or are you in the soupy South? Or good old Texas? Although Texas and Arizona have a lot of different ecosystems, so it's important. All these things are important and they matter, but people pass over it a lot because it's not cool to talk about, I guess. Also, within those areas, do you plan on doing CQC and dying early? Do you plan on putting a team of guys together and establishing an area that you're responsible for? What are you doing within that area of operations? Very important. With that comes how skilled are you? How much experience do you have and how often do you shoot? Do you just get dressed up for the gram?
Hansel, so hot right now. Hansel.
Or do you actually run your gear? And by run your gear, I don't mean stupid drills that you're just trying to put on Instagram or YouTube and look cool. I mean, are you actually training? Are you going to the gym? Have you been in your gear more than an hour? Stuff like that. How's your medical? Important stuff. I'm going to touch on this lightly, but this is a future video that I'm putting together. It's about the inherent accuracy, precision, harmonics, barrel quality, and once again, ammo performance out of that barrel in your conditions. Because you're going to have to fight ammo versus wind, ammo versus the air density, whether it's, again, the southern soup or there's just no humidity. What conditions are you doing? And running cheap ass 55 grain or steel case 55 grain out of your rifle. And I'll give you the secret to that scenario because I've probably pissed you off enough if that's the kind of guy you are. Just get a 20 inch. A 20 inch makes everything awesome. You can vibe check all sorts of plates with 55 grain. So just get a 20 inch. There's your answer. But the type of ammo that you use, be it 55 grain, I know this is 56 grain. The 62 grain I keep trying to make work, which is 318, or these OTMs from Sweden. This is also 318. Or Are you gonna run some sort of 77 grain ammunition, be it tip match kings or OTMs, Mark 262, whatever tickles your fancy and works with your setups. But the ammo selection based on atmospherics and all these other things is very important, and having a round that works well with your barrel and your shooting skill is very important. The next point of consideration is how well supplied are you and your internal parts longevity. A lot of guys are going to point you towards the 10.5 and they don't really talk about how harsh that gun is to shoot and how rough it is on the internals, where a 20 inch, an 18 inch, a 16 inch, even a 14.5 that's well gassed and well sprung is going to last way longer, both with the barrel life and the bolt life, the extractor life, all those things, because this system is just running so much smoother. So with all these factors for assessment that I've laid out here, they do not scream get a 10.5 with a dot. And that's based off my personal experiences, training, and a few very small real world things that I've done. I also didn't once say comfort or convenience. Obviously a 10.5 or an 11.5 is going to be the most comfortable thing that you can throw around throughout the day. I mean, if you're just, most of my experience is room clearing. If I try to take that room clearing shit out into the field, I'm gonna get my head canoed, all right? It's again, not about comfort. If you can have a setup that's light and easy to work with and accomplishes accuracy at range and precision, great. But that's pretty few and far between. Usually if it's too light, it's not precise. And if it's too heavy, then it's not maneuverable or quick. Where a lot of these guys fall into the trap of, I just want to run a 10.5, I just want to run an 11.5, or let me get this 12.5 and set it up and I can do everything. Uh-oh, I said 12.5 again. All of this is legitimately based around needs. What are your needs? So that's why I highlighted all that stuff. A lot of guys want to use technical data and all that stuff, which is important, but it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not, oh, because of this, then it's best for everything. Like, because I can move around barriers quickly, this is what I recommend. Well, it's not just about that. It's about terminal ballistics. It's about accuracy and precision, making those clean shots. And do you even have the skill to make those clean shots? That's the other problem, is you might be able to hit a man-sized steel target, but can you hit a headshot at 300? You know? Which I've done, but until I did it, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know if I could do it. It was definitely with my MR556. But, and I know this is gonna come up because I've heard this a lot, but dudes talk about not being able to PID a distance because they fucking handicap themselves with a 10.5 and a dot, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Don't complain about something you did to yourself and then say, well, since I can't do it because I built myself into this corner, it means I shouldn't do it, and therefore no one else should do it either. Because I'm short-sighted and I can't see past my fucking nose. Everyone wants to tell me how dots are the future on pistols, but fuck me if I bring up the capabilities that an LPVO gives you. On a rifle. That's capable of going past 100 yards. There are plenty of quality 17-ounce optics and lightweight mounts that are out there to solve your problem, and plenty of barrel lengths to give you the range that you're lacking with the 10.5. Which is also not at all saying that dot rifles require a magnifier or you absolutely have to use an LPVO. But if you live where there are wide open spaces within what I would say is walking distance, you know, about a mile, having at least one general purpose rifle with a 1-6 or a 1-8 on it should be a requirement to give yourself capability, is all I'm saying. Work smarter, not harder. Like I've heard throughout my career 37 million times. My little P4XI gives me more information and PID capability out to 300 or 400 yards than just a dot, a T2 or a Comp M4 or a EOTech. So don't handicap yourself and pretend like it's the law. And you'll have the rest of your life to figure out how you fucked up if things get really bad. That magical scenario that you're preparing for. You are your own supply. You are outfitting your rifle. It is your responsibility start to finish. So if you're just preparing for one thing, but you want to talk about, oh, well, if we get invaded or what, and you want to do all this shit, and you're bringing a 10.5 with a dot, it was you that did that to you. You kneecapped yourself don't come up to me later and be like, man, I really wish I had done something else. Yeah, you got the rest of your life to figure that shit out, bud. What are my recommendations? Now that I've just lectured everybody and dragged you through this entire waste of time that this video is, what are my recommendations? At a bare minimum, for the Mission Dictates Gear crowd is going to be at least a 16-inch that's set up for precision, and either a 10.5 or an 11.5. I definitely prefer the 11.5. Although I will say, this LMT, I love this thing. This is so fun to shoot. It doesn't move anywhere. Between how I have it sprung and this muzzle device, this thing's cheating. It doesn't go anywhere. It feels like a video game. It's crazy. But have the long boy that you can reach out and tap stuff. If you walk outside with your 10.5 and you're like, ooh, this situation's a little more serious than I thought, I need to see things a little further and engage a little further, then you have your 16-inch with good glass on it. You can make precise hits out to 400 or 500 yards. And you're feeding it ammunition that can do it. This is what my MR556 shoots. Both MR556s are running 77 grain TMK because the barrel loves it. This 16-inch barrel shoots to the precision standard of a Mark 12, which is, the Mark 12 is 0.77, but this shoots 0.70 to 0.75 all day long. And it makes shooting easy for me. I don't have to work as hard running this gun. And then if you need something quick and fast, definitely the 10.5 or the 11.5. All right, so for doing the most with the least, my second type of guy or gal that's out there, my recommendation is gonna be, and what my fighting rifle is, I hear a lot of bad stuff going on outside. What I'm taking is a 14.5. And I'm talking like automatic gunfire, Red Dawn scenario. I'm taking a 14.5. And my MR556 if I can help it. But 14.5 with a 1:6, an offset dot, a white light, and a D-ball or a maul if you can help it. Give you the night vision capability. Lets you do everything you need to do without getting crazy heavy. And definitely have something that can take a suppressor. You're looking at doing everything you possibly can with this setup. You feed this the same ammunition, which is the 77 grain, or you run an OTM, or the 75 grain tap or something like that. You run a quality heavy round that's going to punch through the air and get it done. Because you don't know what your engagement ranges are gonna be. 14.5 is not as good as 16-inch or even an 18, and obviously not a 20, but 14.5 gives you competent capability out to 500, maybe 600 yards, especially if you have a TMK or an OTM that's gonna buck the wind, it's gonna cut through everything. And yes, that's an expensive loadout, but guess what? Things are gonna come a lot easier to you because you're using a quality round, and it's gonna mitigate a lot of situations for you. And for the poors, stop being poor, save your money, get something good. You can build a decent rifle for $1,000 if you watch sales and don't just like rush out and get something dog shit. You can piece it together over time, or you can get something on sale versus running out and slapping a $400 or $500 PSA together. That's gonna break on you before you get to 1,000 rounds. Now I know with the 14.5 on the table, people are gonna run in here and ask about the 12.5. 12.5s are really cool. They do a lot of impressive things and they cook out pretty good velocity, but every time someone talks about the velocity, they talk about how it's close to the 14.5. So I would recommend just getting the 14.5 so you have that little extra energy as a default. So 12.5s are great, they do a lot of stuff, be a great truck gun, get home rifle or any of that other bullshit that you want to prepare for, that's fine. Or your bedside rifle, because it's gonna be short enough that you can maneuver with it, and it's gonna give you enough performance that you can hit out to 300-400 yards with some really good energy, as long as you feed it quality ammunition. Now the last thing I'm gonna cover is those 12.5 guys, and I really do like the 11.5 over the 10.5. And once again, I love my LMT, it doesn't move, great gun. But the 11.5 has a much better service life, and with 1 inch difference in the barrel is a much better performer. The internal parts last longer, and the barrel life is just so much better than a 10.5 or a 10.3. There's gonna be dudes out there that are gonna say, I just need a ranch rifle, or I need something to deal with hogs, or whatever the case is, they're gonna try to sell to me all they need is 11.5 or 12.5. I'll give you, in this current environment that may never change, all these fantasy scenarios may remain fantasy scenarios, God willing, but let's say that all you have is an 11.5 to deal with whatever problems you have. You can stretch an 11.5 out. And real quick, I don't believe a single one of these fucking videos that shows someone shoot a 10.5 or an 11.5 out to 850 yards. That 5.56 is doing so little. You wanna know how I know it's bullshit? Watch 9-hole reviews. When he's shooting out to 700 or 800 yards with a fucking 308 and it's not getting out there, you think a 5.56, 11.5 is gonna get out there? Fuck you guys for trying to pull that shit. Watch 9-hole reviews, listen to what Henry says, because Henry can get it done. And when that dude's running into problems with an 11.5 at 400 yards, the guy who does clean runs at speed out to 800 yards, I'm gonna take his word over some influencer that just does videos for people. All right, you know, no shade, no smoke or whatever, but they're like, oh, I got my 10.5 out to 800 yards. Fuck you. No, you didn't. And if you did, it's doing that when it hits the target. I don't want to fucking hear it.
Emotional, damn it.
Anyways, I said all that to say, trust people that know what the fuck they're talking about, which isn't me, it's 9-hole reviews or guys like him. Rex reviews, 9-hole reviews, guys that actually shoot. Trust them. But if you're gonna take an 11.5 or a 10.5 or a 12.5, watch videos of people that know how to shoot out to those distances and see how they have to work and measure your skills up to them. Henry would split my fucking head open before I even knew he was there. He could take me at 500 yards. He can positively identify me and take me at 500 yards, 600 yards. Before my skills even are a threat to him, before I could even bring my rifle up, I'm gonna be in the fucking ground because Henry can shoot. So if you watch him struggle, and he doesn't always have his A game, he's not always, you know, he's not the best shooter in the world, but he's one of the best shooters on YouTube. So with these guns, all right, there's other precision shooters, PRS guys, whatever, I don't care. But you take a guy that can pick up any rifle and get hits at those ranges, and he uses those rounds that everybody says they're gonna use. He uses 55 grain, all that other stuff, and I'm sure the way I'm going about this, Henry's not gonna like. But definitely a positive source for what you can do with what. So if you run into a situation where you look down your street, I'll tell you end to end, just what's visible on my street. My street's like a couple of miles long, but what's visible end to end from my house, I have 337 yards to my left and 312 yards to my right. And I've lasered it, I've made range cards, I know exactly how far I gotta shoot. And there's signs, which show how far it is, right? That's what I've lasered as a fucking sign. So those are my distance markers. You don't always realize how far the distance is that you might actually have to engage something. And it's all situationally dependent, which is a cop-out. But at the same time, do I want a 12.5 trying to make that shot? Or do I want a 16-inch with a bipod? Or do I want a 20-inch or Mark 12? You know, there's a lot of situations where you have to sit down and ask yourself, if I had to make this shot, could I? And people are gonna sit there and be like, well, as a civilian, I bet you the guys in San Bernardino wish there was a guy with a rifle at 300 yards that could have shot those two people shooting everybody up, right? Even if it was a hunting rifle, they would have been more than happy to have some rounds. I mean, the California government wouldn't be, but they would have been more than happy to have some 308 soft point and that problem for everybody. So don't talk yourself into a corner. Don't build yourself into a corner. I love these 11.5s just like everybody else does. I was vehemently against 11.5. The guy who gave me the LMT, he let me shoot his 11.5 LMT with an RC2 suppressor, and it was so smooth. And it was everything that I wanted. I was like, holy shit, this gun is amazing. And he's like, yep, I told you. Because he saw potential in me, not to turn into a FUD like everyone else that went in to talk to him about guns. And he said, hey bro, don't run that, give this a shot, see what you think about it. And he wasn't pushy, wasn't anything. And I ended up with 2 11.5s, and I'm building another one. So I love these short guns just like everybody else, but I'm not taking this. It might be in my vehicle, it might be in a backpack or something, but I'm not fucking taking this. I'm gonna take a 14.5 or a 16-inch. So there's a lot of factors that you have to think about. Obviously, I'm sitting here as a guy with 12 rifles, more to buy and more to build, all right? So I'm not telling you not to ever buy this. I'm not telling you don't buy a 10.5. I'm not telling you any of that shit. What I am saying is a 10.5 alone with a red dot is not the move. Or an 11.5 with a red dot or a 12.5, whatever. It's cover your bases, whatever your bases are. That's what all this criteria is. I need to get effective fire on target with the proper terminal ballistics to win. And that's what it's about. It's about winning and going home. So if you want to win, think about the tools that you need to win. Everything is not going to be what you think it is. And there's going to be a scenario that you're going to run into that you're going to say, fuck, I wish I had this. Might be outdoors going indoors and you say, fuck, I wish I had my 11.5. But if you have those tools and options, then you can get it done. And you can go way far down the road like I did, where you have a series of rifles that are progressively and ever so slightly better than the other one. Or you can get, say, 5 rifles and get it done. You can get an SPR, a fighting rifle that's a GPR and a copy of it, and then 2 short boys and be done. Or you can get a precision bolt action, an SPR, a 11.5, a 12.5, and a 10.5, or whatever the fuck you want. It's the sky's the limit. I'm not here telling you what you can and can't buy. But I think people that make recommendations based on no experience, or people that are going to sit there and tell you this is all you need when they again, no experience, and they haven't factored any of these other things. They just operate off of what they know, which isn't much. You're going to fail. So my perspective is be the most ready you possibly can be, have the tools that are going to effectively get you what you need to win, and then if you want to buy other shit on top of that, knock yourself out. That's what I'm saying. But definitely have something that's accurate you can reach out and touch stuff with, have a fighting rifle, and then something that's handy, and then the sky's the limit from there. Cover your bases and then fuck around. Thanks for sticking with me through this long ass video. I hope you all are doing well. Thanks for watching. Take care out there.